A good Tuesday midday. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. We have a big upper level system. This is basically controlling the influence on our local weather as well as a good portion of eastern Canada, of course. And further off to the south, outside the cloud shield, is supporting by this upper level system. We have basically drier air, and that's pretty much most of the country, except as you go way out in the Gulf of Alaska, another big gyre much like this in the Gulf of Alaska, and that's producing some pretty good rainfall across Pacific Northwest coastal regions, and not untypical for this time of year. The other thing, we're looking at a Pacific system. This is basically Lydia, Category 2 Lydia, and it's going to be taking a track across Mexico and then dumping out in the western Gulf of Mexico, not too far from the coastal areas, the Gulf coastal regions. It looks like it takes a track either inland or through the panhandle of Florida, and then it dumps out into the Atlantic and continues its track basically east-northeast, remaining pretty far away from this weather system, which will have looped around at that point in time late in the week and this weekend, and kind of suppressing all of these tropical systems well off to the south. Hence, we're looking at well below normal rainfall, and temperatures a little bit on the cooler side up in our locale. Those temperatures are cold enough underneath this cold pool aloft that there could even be a little bit of wet snow down to even the lowest elevations. And the elevations here are fairly low anyway across this part of Canada, Ontario. For the modeling, we're looking at the European on the left-hand side. We have the GFS Ensemble model on the right-hand side. They're in pretty good agreement. This upper-level system centered south of James Bay, north of Lake Huron, Georgian Bay region, about halfway in between. And a surface low, it's all the way down to the surface, so big, large, upper, mid-level, and surface low all together. Now, this system is the main influence on our weather, but it's not spreading in a lot of precipitation. These are being generated by these little spokes kind of swirling around, and so one of those spokes kind of works into northwestern Vermont. This is for basically later this afternoon and into the morning hours again. Kind of moves on out, and then a little better chance basically for Thursday. Once we get this shot here, this upper level low kind of loops around and then pulls east, and its cold pull aloft kind of makes things a little more unstable, so it generates a little bit more rain shower activity. That would be valid about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. And then the system is kind of just falling apart at night. It might regenerate a little bit of sprinkles again on Friday. And then we have this system moving on out, a little bit of a break in the action, but not a whole lot, as this next system will kind of fill the void here. And it looks like it's mainly going to be the southern half of Vermont. Now, the GFS shows, the ensemble shows a little bit more of a northerly push here. And typically, the European historically wants to keep these things to the south on the modeling. In reality, typically, it moves all the way to the north. So it may look a little bit more like the GFS ensemble than what the European is showing right now. But this system then goes off the coast and then pulls away, and we're kind of left with unsettled conditions after the period. This is valid Sunday night about 2 o'clock in the morning. And it looks like temperatures remain warm enough aloft so that we're not looking at any snow. But there also could be a little bit of wet snow once this cold pull right here in the blue at 5,400 meter thickness and the 0 degree isotherms at 850 hectopascals kind of show that just a little bit of a colder scenario here aloft. And that would be valid on Thursday night, and then during the day on Friday that cold pull moves away. So overall, we're looking at just not very much precipitation. In fact, conditions will be below normal. Beyond the period, this is that rainy system on Saturday, and then unsettled conditions left over in its place going into the early to mid part of next week. GFS Ensemble centered on the Montpelier grid point. This is the 3-hourly QPF, or quick look at precipitation in terms of timing, just about every day, seeing a little bit of shower activity, and then a little bit more as we get into that period at this coming weekend and beyond. This is 850 hectopascal temperatures, or roughly about the altitude elevation of Mount Mansfield. So about that slice of the atmosphere, you can see that this is the 0 degree isotherm, and we go just a little bit below the freezing mark. If there would be any wet snowflakes in some of our local mountaintops, that would be basically the case, as we're looking at generally around the 12th or 13th later in the week. And then those temperatures aloft do warm up as we head into Saturday and this coming weekend. About this time in October, we get into gradient wind season, and so far so good. We're not seeing any gradient winds. In fact, the latest GFS ensemble shows basically winds under 25, 28 miles an hour. So we're looking pretty good here in this department as well without any wind concerns. And precipitation type shown here, and of course no snow to worry about whatsoever. Precipitation graphics here. This is the 7-day total QPF accumulated rainfall from the Weather Prediction Center. And this blue line is 1 inch amounts. The green line, that's half an inch, and then 1/4 of an inch. So less to the north, more to the south. 2-meter temperature levels, anomalies. Above normal here, you can see the arc here with below normal, but not by terribly very much. Note at the top of the globe here, across portions of Siberia, well above normal in terms of temperature. Parts of Eurasia, including portions of Europe, below normal. Focusing on our neck of the woods, primarily for Vermont, of course, we're neutral. It's about near normal, and that's indeed what the forecast is showing. This is a stretch of fairly cold air mass here, running about 9 degrees below, and then above normal and across the southern areas. And that colder than normal weather makes some inroads about 3 days later. This is 3 to 7 days of high temperatures is what we're looking at here. Still near normal or neutral, a little bit above normal further to the north and east, but you can see some colder air is working in across a good portion of the eastern half of the country. Tropics still remain active. We have a couple easterly waves. Easterly waves mean they're coming in from the east, headed westbound. And you can see there's about a 70% chance here that we're going to see some sort of a tropical cyclone development over the course of the next 2 days. This is the one that's interesting because it's cutting across Mexico. It's going to dump into the Gulf of Mexico and then more than likely take a track and not be too far from the Gulf coastal regions. So these areas are going to see some pretty heavy rain, maybe a little bit of wind, and that'll cross the Florida Isthmus and then take a track pretty much out to sea. This is part of that subtropical jet that is very much associated with El Nino conditions. And looking at the 51-member ensemble, so what you can see here is that that system moves just about due east. No threats to the northeast United States. Still active coming in off of Africa, of course. And that's looking very long range. And I'll leave you on this note. This is the one of the computer modeling from the Euro that shows the temperature predictions across the world, and you can see things are well above normal. We're seeing a lot of these colors as opposed to these colors. A little bit of that in the southern hemisphere, but not a whole lot. This is for the month of November, so just running that. Here's the month of December, January, February, March 2024. Pretty much above normal for all three of these. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching. Little preview of things to come.